Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back to Joyful Living. I'm so glad that you're here. Today I'm going to be sharing another one of the lessons that I learned on my grown-up gap year, all about really remembering what it is that you love, and I'm really glad that you're here. So if you are new to my channel, I am Jen, and after a 25-year career and raising our three amazing boys, it was time for me to take a break. I needed some time. I needed to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. I needed to figure out the next chapter of my life. And my husband and I decided together that I would take a year off from basically everything, that I would travel the world, that I would pursue some creative pursuits like becoming a YouTube creator, like writing and some other things that I had been putting on the back burner. And that is exactly what I did. That year was amazing. I traveled literally all over the world, and I've actually been able to craft a business for myself, talking on YouTube about my experiences, hopefully sharing some things that help you guys, and my entire life has changed as a result of my grown-up gap year. So what I'm doing in this series of videos is just sharing a few things that were revealed to me during that time, and I cannot tell you that 1 year of intentionally finding my own joy and identifying with what I wanted to do with my life has really changed everything for me. And so today we're going to talk about the third thing that I learned, which is figure out what you even love. I had spent basically my entire adult life trying to make sure that everybody else was happy. First, it was my husband or my employer or the people on my team, and then it was my children. And, basically to my own peril and to my own detriment, I was constantly putting other people's needs ahead of my own. Now, I realize that to a lot of us, that is how we're raised, right? Especially as women, that is kind of how you are a virtuous woman, is you always put everybody else ahead of yourself. But as a former pastor, I always love remembering that when Jesus told us to love others, he said to love others as we love ourselves. And I think that's really, really important, because you can't love others unless you're first loving yourself really, really well. And for me, I had gotten into a really bad habit, whether that was just in our daily lives or when we were traveling on vacation or really just anything, of always asking what everybody else wanted. And after a while, I'm not even sure I knew anymore what I wanted. I had become so disidentified from what brought me joy, from what I liked to do. And this was really driven home to me on my trip to Paris. Now, my trip to Paris was really my very first gap year trip. And talk about go big or go home, right? I headed out overseas completely on a solo trip. I spent some time in Paris. I did the Disneyland Paris half marathon. Brand new world for me, right? I'd never traveled overseas alone. I had never really done any big trip like this alone. And so this was a very big deal. And I had put so much thought into planning the trip that I don't even really know that I thought about, okay, what am I going to do after I'm there? And my very first day in Paris, I found myself on the hop on and off bus, which those of you that have been to Paris, it's a little touristy, but it is a fantastic way to get an overview of the city. I'll put a link to the trip vlogs I did right here so you can go and watch those. But as we were on the hop on and off bus, we came to the Musée d'Orsay stop. Now, I had been to the Musée d'Orsay when I was in high school. I remembered absolutely loving it. I was there with my mom, and I thought, okay, you know what? I do really remember loving this museum. Well, I got in there, and I had my little book, and I could have gone to all of the, here are all the famous paintings you can see, and there are a lot of famous paintings at the Musée d'Orsay. And I realized, you know what? I don't think I want to go by the guidebook. I think I just want to wander this museum. And I don't think I want to worry about if I'm missing, that one famous piece that I have to see, that one Monet or that one Renoir. And it was like, how about if I just wander around and see what happens? And I ended up doing exactly that. I was there for approximately 3 hours. I had the time of my life. I had no plan. I wandered from room to room, really enjoying some pieces that have no particular huge notoriety. They're not the pieces that are going to be on the postcards in the gift shop, right? They were just pieces that were so beautiful and spoke to me. And I realized I really love this. Like, I did not know I was that into museum pieces. I mean, I spent an entire this one gallery, this one room, Toulouse-Lautrec. And it was really, it talked a lot about his life and how he had been this playboy, but he was fascinated by the poorer parts of Paris society. And he was shunned by his family. And I just took a deep dive into his life, into kind of combining, looking at the paintings with the history, and not worrying about the fact that I'm going to spend 1 hour in this one room when there were so many other things to see. I walked out of that gallery and I thought, that was delightful. I did exactly what I wanted to do. And I thought, you know what? I got to figure out what I love. Because what happens to us is, after decades of doing what everybody else loves, and hear me, I derived so much joy over the years from doing what my kids loved and watching the delight on their faces. But I think I had sort of forgotten, what is it that I love? I love listening to live music. I had forgotten that I love listening to live music. And I don't mean concerts. I actually hate concerts. But I love sitting and just listening to live performers. I was in London and we got to listen to some beautiful performers in Covent Garden. Just very simple. I love acoustic music. I love walking in parks. These are all small things that, when you're a mom raising kids and working full time, you might have loved those things when you were younger, but you just sort of disassociate yourself from, what is it that I really love to do? So it got me thinking, and I actually started a part of my journal where I just wrote down things that bring me joy. And this list is going to be different for literally every human being. So for you, it might be time spent alone in solitude, or it might be, having lunch with friends, or it might be going to a movie by yourself, or maybe you're like me and it's wandering around a museum or an art gallery. Maybe there's a particular kind of music that you used to love to listen to, but maybe it's not kid friendly and family approved, so you've kind of gotten away from that a little bit. Well, stick on those headphones, mama, and really listen to what you love. And I'm not saying that men don't do this as well, because I really do think we absolutely, all of us, when we're raising our kids, our own needs take a back seat. But I do think sometimes men do a better job of continuing to pursue those things that they love, as well as taking care of their families. So if you are watching this, and let's do a little experiment. I'm going to give you 3 hours. And you can do anything you want. And since we're kind of fantasizing here, you can do anything you want, anything in the world. You can just snap your fingers and you can be in a different location, experiencing something different. And what would that look like for you? If you're having trouble answering that question, then I think it's time for you to kind of take stock and sit down and go, shoot, do I even know what I love anymore? Because I had forgotten what I love. And it has been so great for me to not only re-identify with what I love, but to fight for it. So when my whole family's here and I'm feeling a little frayed around the edges, everybody's home for summer, so there's a lot of people here right now, I can say to myself, you know what? I need a little me time, and I instantly know what that looks like. I know that I like to go to Starbucks and put my headphones in and listen to music or watch, 15 minutes of YouTube videos. I know how much reading a book with a big bowl of popcorn and a cup of tea just lifts my spirits. And I think we all need to be identifying with those pieces of ourselves that kind of make us feel a little bit more alive, and that a lot of times in the midst of working, building our careers, and raising our families, we forget. So I want to get back to what I love. I want you to get back to doing what you love. Can you do it every second of every day? Probably not, but at least to be able to carve out a little bit of time in a day, on a vacation, or maybe even entire trips like I have done, where you can just fill your days with doing the things that you love. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Joyful Living is kind of a brand new expression of my YouTube channel, so every subscription means the world to me because we are starting from scratch, and I'm super excited. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and if you're not, I hope this little bit of time has helped you to maybe identify with what you love, and most importantly, that it would help you find joy. Bye-bye.